the sponsor of the bill, Mr. Riggleman from Virginia, for much time as he may consume. He's done great work here, and I give him as much time as he may consume, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of H.R. 1037, the Banking Transparency for Sanctioned Persons Act of 2019. I would like to thank the chairwoman of the committee, Ms. Waters, as well as the ranking member, McHenry, for their support and willingness to bring this legislation to the House floor for a vote. I would also like to thank my colleague, Josh Geitheimer, for co-sponsoring this legislation. This bill requires the Department of the Treasury to report on financial services provided to a state sponsor of terrorism or sanctioned person. This is a common sense reporting requirement that will further assist Congress in its oversight functions, including financial sanctions against state sponsors of terrorism, human rights abusers, and other bad actors targeted with certain U.S. sanctions. This legislation is simple yet essential. It requires the Secretary of the Treasury to submit to Congress every 180 days a report with two sets of information. First, a list of the licenses it issues to financial institutions to provide services to countries and persons subject to certain U.S. sanctions. This would include state sponsors of terrorism, such as Iran, North Korea, or Syria. Second, Treasury would have to provide a list of any foreign banks that conduct significant transactions for persons that have been sanctioned for human rights abuses or corruption. This report will support Congress by ensuring that sanctions are being legally and appropriately applied across the board. The information in these reports will inform Congress about how sanctioned states and individuals engage in financial transactions. Additionally, the increased transparency will help us understand the impacts of sanctions on targeted individuals. With a clear idea of how certain foreign countries are undermining U.S. efforts to combat corruption and human rights atrocities, we can adjust our sanctions policy to intended effects. Finally, this bill will aid Congress and the executive branch to tailor secondary sanctions on foreign financial institutions, as well as better determine how those sanctions should be effectively designed and what the unintended consequences might be, if any should exist. This will be a useful oversight tool and a powerful disclosure requirement that can help Congress understand existing sanctions and design a more effective program for the future. This bill unanimously passed the House in the 115th Congress, and I invite all of my colleagues to join me today and pass H.R. 1037. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields.